Hello and welcome to CNBC.com. I'm Frank Holland, anchor Worldwide Exchange. We are looking at ETF net inflows for the year that are now over $1 trillion. And I'm joined by Todd Rosenbluth of VettaFi to talk about all the action in ETFs. Todd, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right. Based on the pace that we're at 1.06 trillion according to your data. We're well on pace to pass last year's record of 1.12 trillion. What does that say about ETFs and investor appetite for this particular investment vehicle?
We found that investors are increasingly turning to ETFs to get their equity and their fixed income, as well as other asset class exposure. We've seen strong demand for some of those low-cost, broadly diversified products that serve as a building block in many investors' portfolios. We're seeing advisors increasingly embrace ETFs, institutions turning to ETFs to be tactical. ETFs are here to stay.
All right, you shared some of the top ETF inflows for us for this week. The top one is the AGG ETF. It's the iShares Core U.S. Aggregate Bond ETF. The fact that investors are turning to bonds and bond ETFs right now, what do you think that says about how investors feel about this market?
So I think there's a combination of things that are happening. Fixed income ETFs have been popular for much of this year, but now we're heading in next week to a Fed meeting when I think there's general consensus that the Fed is going to continue to cut interest rates. So investors are getting ahead of that, but also we've seen a volatile year in the equity and the fixed income markets. And so bonds and bond ETFs like AGG can serve as a ballast to a portfolio.
All right. Another one of the top inflows was the IEF, the iShares 7 to 10 year Treasury bond ETF. But I want to talk to you about the number 2 spot for ETF inflows, the DIA ETF, which is a Dow Jones ETF. Now, we just saw the Dow actually hit a record. Do you think investors are just trying to chase an index moving higher, or is there some other reason to go into a Dow ETF?
So I think investors are focused on the fact that the stock market continues to hit record levels. DIA and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is quite different than the S&P 500 or the Qs that you normally are going to talk about to get equity exposure. Diversified in a different manner, less technology exposure, more exposure to industrials and financial companies. So if you think the economy is going to be strong heading into the end of the year, DIA could be a good choice as an alternative to the Qs or SPY.
All right. So speaking of DIA, a lot of people look at the Dow, as you mentioned, very different than the NASDAQ 100, very different than the S&P. A lot of people say that the Dow represents companies in the real economy. Do you see investors being more attracted to the quote-unquote real economy as opposed to the AI trade going forward in the ETF market?
Well, we still think the AI trade is still a very popular one. So you can get exposure to DIA through a more non-technology exposed ETF, although it has technology companies. But we are seeing greater interest in artificial intelligence direct ETFs as well as adjacent ETFs. So we've been actually seeing some strong interest in nukes and NUKZ, which is a nuclear energy ETF, which is a way to tap into the artificial intelligence spending because there's a need for greater efficiency and utilities and industrial companies are a key part of that, not just the technology companies.
Right. A lot of times people give us a pick on this segment, and I know you cover the whole ETF market, Todd. Is there a pick or one that you see as having big upside going forward for the rest of this year?
So I'll piggyback on that nukes theme, the NUKZ as a thematic ETF that we think is going to do well heading into the rest of the year as there's demand for artificial intelligence. And then there's pure artificial intelligence related ETFs. We've seen strong interest in BAI, which is an iShares ETF. This ETF is actively managed, gives you the benefits of that broad suite of technology companies tied to artificial intelligence. And you get the benefits of the experts at BlackRock that are choosing those companies. So I'm going to pick 2 of them, nukes and BAI.
All right, Todd Rosenbluth from VettaFi. Always great to talk to you. Thank you for your time and your insight on the ETF market. Thank all of you for watching CNBC.com. I'm Frank Holland, anchor Worldwide Exchange. Have a great day.